Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about some tips on how to shoot a wedding video by yourself with one single camera. So, cue that intro. Alright, so when I was first starting out doing wedding videos and things like that, I was looking around YouTube and on the internet for the best ways to shoot a wedding video and go to a ceremony and reception and do the whole deal with just myself and one single camera. Everything that you find says don't do that. Don't go to a wedding with one single camera. But hey, sometimes it's all the bride and groom wants or call for or want to pay for, and that's all I really have to work with right now. I'm maybe working up towards a second camera, but right now what I have to work with is myself and a single camera. Of course, in the future it'd be super ideal to have a good old second shooter or second camera set up on a tripod. Yeah, that would be really ideal, but for right now, this is what we're working with. So if you're in the same situation, you're like, they asked me to do their wedding video, I don't really know the best way to do this. Here's some tips on how to do it by yourself with a single camera. So let's dive in here. All right, so tip number one, do as much homework as you can possibly do beforehand. So get the itinerary from the bride and groom or the wedding planner, whoever's doing it. Make sure you know where the bride and groom are gonna be throughout the day, so you're not just showing up and being like, what's happening, where should I be? Because it's just gonna be you bouncing back and forth between wherever the bride and her girls are and wherever the groom and his guys are, trying to get the best shots. It's good to know when the bride's gonna be there, when the groom and his groomsmen are gonna be there, so you can get the best shots. You know, like when you should show up, you'll be really confident in what you're doing, where you're going. That's really helpful. Get a ceremony program ahead of time, because some ceremonies are longer than others, and maybe you're off on the side getting a shot of the couple, but hey, the kiss is coming up, but weren't sure the kiss was coming yet. It just sprung up on you, and you're trying to run to get back to the center aisle to get that shot, and man, you're late. So it's good to get a ceremony program as well. But at the same time, you'll still have to be flexible on the wedding day. There's no, like, things change all the time. There's going to be some flexibility, but as much homework as you can do will be really helpful for you to be the most confident you can be and get the shots that you need to get at the right times. All right, tip number two, make sure the couple has the proper expectations. If they're expecting you to have drone footage, or they're expecting you to be able to capture the entirety of the ceremony, or something like that, or they want a 30 to 40 minute video, that it's really hard for a single person with one camera to do that. Because if they want some sort of edit of the wedding ceremony of like, here's a different shot, here's a different shot, here's a different shot, you're gonna have to pick up your tripod or your monopod or your glide cam, whatever you're using. You're gonna have to pick it up and move it to a different location, and you're not gonna be able to use that in the video. So, I mean, what I always say is that I keep my camera rolling with the audio on, so I would give them all that raw footage of the ceremony, but it's not gonna be like in their official final video. So all that raw footage, they'll be able to hear what's going on, but sometimes I'm gonna be moving to a different spot and then sit down, and then they'll be able to see, you know, the shot that I get. But you just need to make sure that the couple has the proper expectations and the limitations that you do have, but also tell them what you can do, what you can provide them. So you'll be able to get, you know, highlights of the ceremony and them getting ready, and there's shots of their decorations and of the church and the reception. You'll be able to be there for all of it, but just they need to know that there's only one of you. So you can't just be with the bride the whole morning. You can't just be with the groom the whole morning. You have to bounce back and forth. Just make sure that they know those things. And what will be helpful, kind of lining up with that, is having someone on the bride's side or the groom's side that are in like their wedding party, or maybe the wedding planner or something, to be your point person, your contact, to tell you when important things may be happening. Maybe it's time for the bride to, you know, put on her dress. And obviously, I'm a guy, so I'm not going to be standing in there for that. But at least I want to get there right as she's finishing up, so I can get someone, you know, zipping up the back, or just being ready for those types of things. Yeah, and maybe the timeline for the day is kind of off, or maybe they change some scheduling things around. So having somebody who's saying, hey, actually we're gonna go to do the first look right now, it's good for you to be able to know and have a person it's telling you that thing, keeping you updated, saying, hey, you need to be here, you need to be there. Actually, the groom, and they're just chilling over there. They're not doing much. The bride is where you need to be right now. Hey, the groom is, putting on his jacket. Maybe they're saying a prayer, something like that. You should go over to the groom side. Just having that contact is good, because sometimes you don't know exactly when things are going to happen. If you're stuck on the bride side when something's happening with the groom, you're going to miss those shots. It is a balancing act, so you're going to be bouncing back and forth, but that's one of the expectations that the couple should have too, that you're not going to be able to get everything of the morning for both of them. The next tip would be to be touching base with your photographer. Maybe they'll have 1 or 2 photographers. They're going to be on the same page as you are, so they're going to need to know the itinerary, or when the first look's going to be. And maybe they were with the bride when you were with the groom, so you can say, hey, what's going on over there? Or should we be over here right now? Hey, actually something's happened to the groom. You should come on over here, get some photos. Working together. That'll also be really helpful during the ceremony, saying like, hey, where are you going to be during this? Where are you going to be during this? I don't want to get in your way. That's not exclusive to just single person, single camera setups, but just as a rule of thumb, like, make friends with your photographer. So tip number 5 would be to get there early to get all the establishing shots and decorations and flowers and scenery that you can get beforehand. So you can knock all of that out really early. For me, I love getting there as early as possible in the morning to be able to get all of those shots so I don't miss anything, so I'm not in a rush, just in case something's happening with my equipment or something, or maybe they're still setting stuff up, and I just want to be ready to go by the time the bride gets there and the groom gets there, and I have all those shots, and I can start focusing on them and what they're doing. And maybe in there sprinkling some shots, because maybe not everything has been set up by that point yet, so I'll have plenty of time to be able to go get a shot of some flowers that weren't there before, or maybe the bride brought her dress, so I can kind of step away and hang the dress up and get a shot of the dress. Yeah, getting there early, getting all the shots you can, and then you can focus more on the people once they get there. If you have those out of the way, you're not worrying about it. All right, so tip number 6, make a plan beforehand of how you're going to move throughout the wedding ceremony. If you get a program ahead of time, that's really helpful, but just in general, as a rule of thumb, thinking, hey, when the processional comes down, I want to be kind of in the front of the first row, kind of on the side there, so I can get their faces as they walk down the aisle. Some may decide to go in the back to get them walking from the back, but I mean, I think it's better to get their faces walking towards you. And then you have to think for, hey, I'm only one person, I only have one camera, how am I going to get reaction shots of the groom? So that's a great point. What I do is there's usually a break between the bridal party walking down and when the bride walks down. So if that's the case, I kind of turn my camera really quick to get a shot of the groom right before the bride walks down. So he's kind of looking off, but there's no way I can get the bride walking down the aisle and then turn really quick to get the groom and then turn back really quick. I just can't do that. It's like you're gonna interrupt her walking down the aisle. That's a huge shot. You have to be creative in that sense to when you're gonna get that shot, because you can't just interrupt her walking down the aisle to turn around and get that shot, because you're gonna miss her walking down the aisle. Yeah, so you want to start out there, and then once the bride makes it down, you want to start stepping back and getting towards the back of the ceremony, so you can get a wider shot of them up at the front and with all the people in their seats, and then start moving around as the ceremony would dictate, like, hey, this person will probably be talking at this point. I want to get on the opposite side so I can see their face talking. Maybe you're not 100% sure when they're going to. You just kind of have to get into a flow. The more weddings you do, you'll kind of understand the flow of the wedding, but all weddings are different too. So you have to be flexible, but try to come up with as much of a game plan as you can about where you want to be during certain parts of the wedding. Be really, really helpful, even if it's a rough idea. That also ties in with working with your photographer, like, where's she gonna be or where's he gonna be? They might have been doing this forever just by themselves, and they might know exactly where the best places to be are during certain points. All right, tip number 7, make a game plan on how you want to use your equipment throughout the day, because you're going to have a limited amount of batteries, and that's going to dictate when you should be running back to wherever your kind of little home base is, where you have all your extra equipment and your batteries, and swapping those out and then running back to where you need to be, or when you need to take your camera off of your monopod after the ceremony, which is what I use. I put it on, I guess, to do a tripod. I don't have an official monopod yet, but I just do it on one leg. Yeah, so then after the ceremony, I have to take that off and I have to get it onto my glide cam, which takes about 5 minutes, 10 minutes sometimes, depending on how flustered I might be or how fast I need to do it to balance that thing. So you need to have a game plan. It's like, hey, when am I going to be able to switch this thing over? If you're not very skilled at that, or maybe you decide, hey, I'm not going to do the glide cam until the reception, or maybe you don't even have any of that type of equipment, trying to find a way to leverage your equipment so you can get some movement. I think that's really important. If you're just going to be a single camera, single shooter, I would say invest in something where you can have movement in your shots, whether it is the glide cam, whether there's a slider that you use on your tripods. You set it right on top of the tripod and you can just do some sliding movements, and you can turn it and maybe do some kind of going forward into the shot movements. Really helpful. It helps create a more dynamic look. Going from static to dynamic gives more life to the video, especially if you're just one camera, one shooter. It gives it a lot of life and it feels like there's more happening than if you were just to set up your static camera in different places. All right, tip number 8. What you want to do is you want to think for the edit as you are shooting certain things. So it's not really possible to do that all the time. You're not just always going to be like, I know exactly where this is going to go, exactly what I'm going to do with it. You're just trying to get all the shots you possibly can. But when you're thinking of that you are only one camera, you are only one person, it's even more important to think of, how can I edit these together so that they make the most sense? Like I was just talking about with the bride coming down the aisle and getting the groom shot. It's like, I'm going to edit that as if I got the bride and then went back, got the groom, and then went back to the bride again. Yeah, so that's how I think I'm gonna edit it, because I really have no other way to do so. You may not do things in seamless order as you're out there shooting, but you're gonna be thinking for, how am I going to edit this so it looks like this made perfect sense. This is how it happened in real life. Most of the time that's gonna happen, but sometimes you need to think creatively for how you're gonna edit it together to make it work. Tip number 9, be assertive when you need to be. If you're just one person, one camera, you're gonna have to get in there, and if they're doing photography shots, you're gonna need to say, hey, I wanna come in and do a little, motion of everybody's faces, so can I jump in real quick? And you can set up your next photo shot after this. You have to be able to do that, because you don't have a big team of people saying, all right, this is what we're doing. It's just you, and you have to really jump in there. Being friends with the photographer, but also saying, hey, I need my shots as well. And then last but not least, tip number 10, take breaks and don't forget to eat, and don't forget to hydrate. It's really important when you're in the zone, you're just going. Maybe have someone hold you accountable to eating. My wife was awesome in coming early with me to the last wedding. She helped me get some establishing shots, helped with some equipment, helped come up with ideas, but she also helped me eat and take breaks and drink water, and she was just really helpful in that. So maybe having someone to hold you accountable would be super helpful. But that's it for me today. So if you like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be putting out more videos in the future. I have a wedding coming up in Minneapolis, Minnesota for some awesome friends in August, so I'm really excited for that. So that'll be up in the next month or so. So there are more things coming. Can't wait to see you guys next time. Peace.